So today we're talking about the diminished scale, the half whole step diminished scale. And the reason we're talking about that is it popped up in that all blues lesson, if you recall. And I couldn't really cover it, too extensively just because there's so much to talk about with that scale. And I don't want to do a 7-hour lesson. Nobody likes those. So anyways, I'm going to talk about it a little bit more in this lesson. There's really a lot to discover. So anyways, we're about to get into music theory black hole territory. So put your seatbelt on, okay? Because we're about to get sucked into it. Anyways, in the beginning, there was the chromatic scale. And there's 12 notes. And almost everything that we came up in the modern times is based some way from that scale. There's only one of them, because it doesn't matter where you start, it's always going to be the same scale, right? Everything is based on this scale, okay? So next, if we cut it in halves, what do we get? Half of 12 is 6. What 6-note scale do you know? Well, it ain't the blues scale. That would be pretty cool, but it ain't. What it is, it's the whole tone scale. So there's 2 whole tone scales in the chromatic scale. Just 2 of them. Doesn't matter where you start. There's only going to be 2. So since, just to make it easy on ourselves, while we navigate the music theory black hole, let's just think in C because it just makes it easy. Today's examples are using C as well. Okay, so you got C whole tone and you got D flat whole tone. That's all there is. C whole tone is the exact as D whole tone, just starting on a different note, right? So that's what I'm getting at here. Okay, so next, if you take that chromatic scale and you divide it into 3 parts, right? 4 notes, 4 notes, and another 4 notes, what do you get? Well, you're going to get the C diminished arpeggio, D flat diminished arpeggio, and a D diminished arpeggio. Remember, any diminished arpeggio is really 4 diminished arpeggios, right? So C diminished is also going to be E flat diminished, is also going to be G flat diminished, or F sharp diminished, if you want to think about it that way. Right? And then what else would you get? A diminished, right? So when you cut up these 3 different diminished arpeggios, you're really getting 12. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so now here's where the fun part starts. If you take the first 2 C and D flat diminished arpeggios and you go like this, you get the half whole step diminished scale. Okay, and if you take the next 2 and combine those, you get the same thing. And if you take the last one and combine it with the first one, you get another one. So there's only 3 half whole step diminished scales. So and they repeat. So for the sake of today's lesson, C, C sharp, and D, or I'm sorry, C, D flat, and D. Okay, it doesn't matter how you want to think of it, and harmonically, whatever. And but the scale is made up of half steps and whole steps. Okay, remember, 2 diminished 4-note arpeggios. So when you combine them, it's an 8-note scale. The pattern is going to go half step, whole step, half step, whole step, and that's the scale that we're using today. And it's a really interesting kind of scale. Before we get on to the scale itself, it's important that we look at the harmony it creates, or else you won't know where to use it. So when we take that C half whole step diminished scale, and we make chords of it, we're going to get C7, C7 flat 9, C7 sharp 9. It has a sharp 11 in it, and a natural sixth in it. Okay, so that means the definitive chords are going to be like, in this case, C13 flat 9 or C13 sharp 9, like this kind of sound. This is the sound. These chords might sound weird to you, but when you use them in a chord progression, it's not really weird. So, like for instance, like today we're using a 2-5-1, a real long one. It's this kind of sound. Right? It's sort of a needs a little bit. It needs resolution, right? So it's a good 5 chord, a functioning 5 chord, right? So I'm going to play over a C13 flat 9 chord. It's just that chord we just listened to. And you know, it's important that when you practice scales like this, that you practice it over a chord, and that way you develop an intuition for the sound of the scale, right? You have to become familiar with the sound, or else you won't play anything sensical. Okay, so let's try that. Right, so that's slow enough, you know, that you have a little bit of time to really listen. It's not so fast. Okay, so anyways, next thing you have to know about this scale, and it's pretty cool, is that there's four major triads in it, and they're a minor third apart. So if we're playing C as we are today, there's going to be a C, an E flat, F sharp, A. I tend to use these little tiny shapes, right? I have better success when I do it that way. And I find these are very useful. I don't really like the big giant ones. I like the little smaller ones because they're easier to combine. So let's just listen to some of those and try to work those into our playing a little bit using this scale. Remember, minor thirds apart. So using these tools, let's try to use them, but remember, the whole point is to resolve, right? So we're playing 2-5-1. And over that 5 chord, this is what we're going to do. What am I going to play over the 2 chord? G minor. I'm going to play G Dorian. Right? We have lessons on those, right? So you can go back and check those out. G Dorian. And G Dorian's F major, okay? Then over the C 13 flat 9, we're going to play the C half whole diminished scale. And then over the 1 chord, which would be F major, I'm thinking F Lydian, which is C major, if it's easier for you to think about it that way. All right, so there you have it. That's the half whole diminished scale. Now, not only is it fun and interesting, and it has all sorts of secrets. Besides that, sometimes you'll get a 13 flat 9 or a 13 sharp 9 chord in a chart you might have to play over, and you're going to need this. Okay. So if this was complicated, go get the PDF. I explain it in the PDF, all the theoretic information. And, of course, the backing tracks are always there. All right, so get to it, and I hope you had a good time. See you around.